and probably know the name. Going under the name of BTC Sessions, one of my heroes and somebody who inspired me to get involved in Bitcoin education. I think when we think of Bitcoin education, it's immediately that little YouTube thumbnail where we see Ben calmly talking us through this transition of mastering the technology, taking the Bitcoin, owning our keys, and mastering the skills that these complex, crazy developers have made for us. But thanks to people like Ben, we can hold and use to become more sovereign. So Ben's going to show himself how he's taken upon this tool to not only implant it into his financial life, but into his whole life, as Ben brings us to Bitcoin as a lifestyle. Everybody give it up for BTC Sessions.
Very kind intro. Thanks, man. Yes, so I'm here to talk about becoming a crazy person and living on Bitcoin, and how I've kind of integrated how I handle it day to day. So the actual things that I am currently using every single day, those unfamiliar, again, I've been kind of living more or less fully on a Bitcoin standard since 2020. And so at that point, I just kind of decided, all right, I'm going to pull the trigger. I'm going to try and just fully live on Bitcoin in every possible way that I can. Now, not to say that every single thing that I do is I have Bitcoin in a wallet and then I'm purchasing from somebody who's accepting the Bitcoin. I use various tools and things to help myself do that. But I want to talk about what are those tools? What are those things that I'm doing? I'll kind of skip through the intro of who I am, what I do. I've been educating people around Bitcoin for a while. So what am I talking about here? I'm going to be covering what do I use for my on-chain Bitcoin? What are the tools, wallets, interfaces, all that stuff? And how do I handle on-chain privacy? What do I use for mobile? So if I'm doing small day-to-day transactions, what are my go-tos? Am I running a node? Am I using multisig? What am I worrying about when it comes to inheritance for my family and making sure that they get, my stack if anything should happen to me? How do I actually go about living on Bitcoin? How do I jump through those hoops to make it possible? And then I just wanted to touch on one of the underlying things that I use a lot, because I use a lot of different wallets, and I also help out friends and family and people close to me in setting up their wallets. So what is the most underrated tool, I think, in the Bitcoin space that I use all the time? So my on-chain foundation, what do I use as my daily driver? So when it comes to security, cold storage, my Coldcard queue is kind of the thing that I use all of the time, day to day. And so again, as a side note, I invoice in Bitcoin. I'm receiving on-chain Bitcoin. And so I use Coldcard queue, and then I use Sparrow Wallet on desktop to view that so that I can interact with it, set up my transactions, all of that. And then if I do want to keep track of any wallets on the go, usually I'm doing that through Nunchuk wallet on mobile. So I can, if I want to see my Coldcard queue, I can view the balance, but I'm not traveling around with a Coldcard with me typically. So this is kind of my foundational basic setup. By the way, if you have questions in your head, I will hopefully have time for a few of those at the end. So just kind of keep a note of them as we go through. So my basics: Coldcard, Sparrow, a little bit of Nunchuk as I go. How do I actually deal with on-chain privacy? I receive some Bitcoin. How do I then make sure that it is relatively private? So I've actually strung together how I use my Coldcard and Sparrow, and there's a third piece, which is Wasabi Wallet. So what does this look like in practice? I've got my Coldcard. I would like the funds that sit on the Coldcard to be private when they get there, or more private than initially. And so what I've actually done is Wasabi Wallet is a CoinJoin wallet that you can have on desktop. But when you do that, a CoinJoin wallet must be a hot wallet, meaning it can't be a Coldcard because the seed is offline. You need the ability for those funds to be able to automatically be sent, because CoinJoin, you're trying to coordinate a whole bunch of people doing a transaction all at once, so that it kind of obfuscates who owns what. And unless you're sitting there with a cold card and it says, okay, go, and you can hit send at the right time, that doesn't really work. And so you need a hot wallet. So what I've done is I've actually taken Wasabi Wallet, and it receives any invoice that I have sent out. Okay, you owe me some Bitcoin. You're going to send it here. It lands in Wasabi Wallet. As soon as it does, Wasabi Wallet just does its thing. It coin joins it and adds some privacy. But you can also have Wasabi Wallet automatically coin join into a cold storage wallet. So it lands in a hot wallet, it gets coin joined, and as soon as the coin join finishes, it can automatically go to wherever you want it to go. And for me, I want it to go here. So I'm able to import my Coldcard wallet to Wasabi so that it knows, receive an invoice, coin join it, send it to your Coldcard, so it's now secure and offline. So you may be asking, well, if I'm just doing all this in Wasabi, why this? Why am I also using Sparrow Wallet, and how does that even work? I've set it up so I can see my Coldcard account in Wasabi Wallet so that it can automatically send there. But I look at my account and I spend from my account in Sparrow. And there's a reason why I'm doing that. The reason is that Sparrow Wallet, when you go to send, it has this cool little tab, efficiency or privacy. And when you hit the privacy tab, when you go to spend, it actually turns your transaction into a fake two-person coin join. So it appears as if two people are spending simultaneously and doing a coin join as well, which gives another added layer of obfuscation. So if somebody's trying to on-chain sleuth what the hell is going on, I mean, good fucking luck. It becomes very difficult. It looks like I've sent the same amount to here and here, and then there's change here, and then there's change here, and there's a fee, and it just becomes difficult to see. Not to mention, the original funds were already coin joined. So it just adds this additional layer. So again, to summarize, I send an invoice to somebody, they send me Bitcoin. It lands here. It gets coin joined. It automatically goes to my Coldcard. That just gets put in cold storage. I leave it there. But when I do want to spend, I'm looking at it in Sparrow Wallet, and it will give me some additional privacy on the way out too. Now, I am invoicing through what? What am I using? Right now, I'm using Zaprite. So Zaprite is a service. Parker Lewis is on the team, for those of you that are familiar with him. Super, super convenient. Of course, BTC Pay, incredible. This, just for my purposes, Zaprite has been working really well. It has all these easy plugins. Basically, this is a website. You can pay for the service, but it has all these different plugins where you can, link a regular Bitcoin wallet. You can link a Lightning node that you have. You can link, if you have like a Strike account, you can use Liquid. If you have like AlbiHub hooked up to your own node, all these different options. I know Coinos here in Vancouver, you can link that. You have so many different options, and whatever ones you use, you can link in. And when you send an invoice, you can say, okay, give them an option for on-chain, give them an option to pay in Lightning. But you also have, if you're accepting fiat like Stripe and Square and PayPal, that can be alongside it. So the non-Bitcoin people that you're invoicing can still pay you without having to use an entirely separate system. So for me, it's been a nice, simple option. It's easy for me to grab my Wasabi, what's known as the XPub. If you aren't familiar with that term, it just allows Zaprite to be able to bring up an address for people to send to. But it's automated. I send off an invoice, and it just goes to Wasabi, gets coin joined, goes to my Coldcard. So this is what I'm using for my invoicing. Now, I play around with a lot of wallets. This will come in later on. But I play a lot around with a lot of different mobile wallets. I'm always testing stuff, and depending on what I feel like, I may use a variety of things. Currently, this is kind of what I'm using primarily for my mobile apps. If you're a person that you're like, I don't want to deal with any Lightning channels, anything like that. I just want to be able to send and receive via Lightning, and I don't care. But I also maybe don't want a custodial app where they've just got like full control over my funds. Aqua's probably going to be, the one that you might migrate to. It uses something called Liquid on the back end, but it allows you to send and receive via Lightning. You have a seed phrase. It functions much the same as a regular Bitcoin wallet. If you want something that, if you're a bit more of a purist, you want to be on the Lightning Network, your own Lightning channel, quasi-automated, you may need to know a little bit about liquidity if you're constantly receiving, but I'd say Phoenix. Great, awesome option. Again, same kind of backup, 12-word seed phrase. If you want to go deep down that rabbit hole and you want to run your own Lightning node, AlbiGo is awesome, and you would use that with your own Lightning node at home. You'd set it up, do your own channels, but AlbiHub walks you through everything. It'll say, hey, you just downloaded AlbiHub. The first thing you might want to do is open a channel. If you want to, click this button, and it just kind of steps you through that, and you can do it yourself. And then it gives you options for connections and says, hey, do you want to connect a mobile wallet so that you can access this for anywhere? And AlbiGo is the app, and you just scan a QR code, and now your mobile device is connected to your node at home, and I can now spend Lightning here like I just did and bought a coffee, and it's actually pinging my node at home, which is really cool. And my node that I am running is a Start9. I really like Start9. I found it super reliable. I very seldom have any issues where things are shutting down or whatever. What I'll say is there's a lot of people might migrate to something or be using something like Umbrel. Umbrel also great. The interface is very like iPad-esque. It looks like that, whereas a Start9 can look a little bit more intimidating, but functionally it works the same. But this is just kind of the path that I've gone. What do I run on my node? I run a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain. Take your choice, core or not, so I'm going to sidestep that. We'll wait for the discussion later on. I also run Electrum Rust server. This basically just indexes all of the transactions and makes it easier to connect external wallets. So you're looking at your own copy of the blockchain when you're checking your balance and all that. There's privacy benefits to it. I also run a copy of Mempool, which allows you to look up transactions on your own node instead of somebody else's. Again, privacy benefits. LND is my Lightning node, and AlbiHub is just like basically an overlying application that allows me to manage my Lightning node. Okay, multi-sig inheritance. So I've used a number of different multi-sig things. I've have extensive experience setting up my own multi-sig, but when it comes to getting Bitcoin to my family later on, I do like the idea of having some type of automation built in with a contingency plan if the automation doesn't work out. And so I've used Unchained. Unchained is awesome. They are unfortunately deprecating support for anything outside of the US, but they are super awesome. But I do really like Nunchuk right now when it comes to the multi-sig non-KYC inheritance planning. So the way it would work, you can sign up with like an email address. They don't require any other information from you. And there's a way that you can automate your Bitcoin getting to your next of kin without any other information necessary. I also like it because it works with like Coldcard and Tap Signer. It also works with a ton of other hardware, so you can take your pick. You can set spending conditions and have time locks and all these different things. And in terms of what your family would see, you would go to them. You would just have either an email recipient or multiple email recipients. And you would say, there's going to be an inheritance. I'm going to give you the following information: 3 English words and a password, which is like a string of letters and numbers. And what they see is a certain amount of time lapses. I usually set mine for about a year in advance. And so if nothing happens to me in that time, then I just bump it forward. But if something does happen to me, then I know within a calendar year they will receive the inheritance. And what that looks like is one or multiple people get an email saying there's an inheritance to claim. Click here, download this application, put in your 3 English words, put in your password. At that point, it will, without getting into the details of technically what's going on, it will then give them the capacity to claim the Bitcoin without the ability of Nunchuk to ever rug pull. Okay, so Nunchuk does not have the ability to spend. They can only add a signature to help the person move Bitcoin into their own self-custody. It allows them to set up their own wallet. It kind of handholds them through the process. So all your loved one needs is to receive an email and then type in 3 words and a password, and that's it. So that is my current setup. Living on Bitcoin, how do I do this? A variety of things. So paying bills, paying people. We've got awesome team from Bull Bitcoin here. Obviously, Pablo's going to be running a bunch of stuff tomorrow. Bull Bitcoin has been crushing it on that side of things. You know, it's an incredible tool to be able to pay any Canadian biller or person in Canada. It's such an amazing tool. Obviously, Adam at Bitcoin Well, they have bill payments as well. They have, you can e-transfer people, things like that. So we're so lucky to have tools like this here in Canada, and they're very simple to use. Gift cards. This is a big one. I know Mike, is he there? There we go. Mike, coin cards. Actually, the first tool that I ever used to pay for a variety of things, but back in 2014, I was buying gift cards on coin cards as part of a contest that I won that challenged me to live on Bitcoin 11 years ago. And I managed to do it, and in large part because of coin cards. So things like coin cards, Bitrefill, Bitcoin Company, things that you can do like getting gas cards, getting grocery cards, being able to get on Amazon, Canadian Tire, Starbucks, all these different things, Best Buy. You can piece together a lot by using Bitcoin to get gift cards. And then I think the most important part of this puzzle is local. If you can build a local circular economy, if you can surround yourself with like-minded people that understand Bitcoin, or you can teach them to understand Bitcoin, this is kind of the most important piece, because these services are amazing. They help me be able to live on Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, if the powers that be decided that on and off ramps are no longer allowed, what do you do? If you don't have connections with people around you, and you're not part of your community, you don't know other Bitcoiners, what do you do with your Bitcoin? Like, it may be worth something somewhere, but if you don't know anybody and you don't interact with anybody, how do you use it? And so I think it's so important to begin not only building relationships with other Bitcoiners, but actually using Bitcoin peer-to-peer. And so in Calgary, we created the SAP market, and what we did is we went to the Bitcoiners first. I know we have, I don't think he's here right now, but Cole from Coinos has been a one-man army. You guys have so many brick and mortar merchants here in Vancouver. And I am not the person to kick open the door of a business and start orange pilling somebody cold. I'm just not good at that. Cole is. But What I can do is make a compelling case to people that I know and am familiar with and are already Bitcoiners, but start to help them change their habits. And so what we did is we took a different approach. We went to the local Bitcoiners, groups like this, and we said, listen, you guys all understand that Bitcoin is better money. Just by show of hands, how many people have some sort of a business where they sell a product or a service or something like that, or a hobby where you make things? How many people in the room have something like that? Okay. How many of you are actively accepting Bitcoin at your business? Okay, good. Not bad, not bad. So we did this. We asked these questions regularly in Calgary. And at first, you'd see some hands go up and then, some drop for the second part of the question. More importantly, we then went down the rabbit hole of, okay, you accept Bitcoin. Who have you told? And sometimes the answer was, well, we put a sticker on the door. I mean, good luck. That may not draw people to the business. I think when you're accepting Bitcoin, you need to let other Bitcoiners know, and not once, but consistently. Hey, as a reminder, we do this. Come visit us. Or the inverse. If you want to be a crazy person like me and live on a Bitcoin standard, you need to regularly go to these meetups and say, hey, I'm looking for the following thing that I can get with Bitcoin. Does anybody do that? Or does anybody know somebody who does that? And what we found is oftentimes I'd go into a room and ask, I'm looking for somebody who has beef. And even if somebody in the room wasn't a cattle rancher, they would know a person. And then they would go to that person. Even if the person wasn't a Bitcoiner, it would plant that seed and they'd get curious. And maybe they'd come to a meetup. And then all of a sudden, fast forward 6 months and they're balls deep in Bitcoin and they're very excited about it. So what we found is starting with the Bitcoiners and then reaching out to like-minded people that are on the cusp. They're predisposed to maybe leap into Bitcoin easier. So think, we were just talking about gold bugs. Gold bugs, if they can get over the hurdle of something digital can be also scarce, then they can make that leap. So we actually have a whole bunch of precious metals people in Calgary that now regularly attend the SAP market. Same thing. We've got a lot of people that are, maybe libertarian leaning or have some predisposition to not be huge fans of the government. And so we plug into those groups and they begin to see, like non-state money. That's interesting. I like that idea. So we've kind of reached out to a lot of different groups, and we've started having this 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon effect where people start coming in just for connections of connections. And the SAP market has been running for a year and a half, 2 years now. And we have, 2 or 3 of these a year, and then we try to frequent each other outside of the market. I think this is how you become truly censorship resistant, is to build stuff like this. So I love seeing the approach here. I love seeing the approach that we've taken at home. And I think maybe if Vancouver and Calgary can put their heads together, maybe we can join forces and make it even bigger. This is the SAP market at home. This was just the recent one, right before the Bitcoin rodeo, but just a few snapshots of some of the people there that just came in. We had people come in from cross country, like fly in from Toronto and Vancouver, Kelowna. Scott Deedles, who just spoke, has been there many times. Seb, you've been there, I think, the past 2 or 3 now, maybe. We've got people that come in regularly. I think when Bitcoiners get into these social situations, it's just intoxicating, and I love to see it. I alluded to my what I'll say is like the most underrated tool that I use all the time, and it pertains to my own personal setup, but also helping friends and family. BIP85. Who's heard of BIP85? Okay, a few hands in the room. If you have no idea what the hell this is, you create a Bitcoin wallet, you get a seed phrase, 12 words, 24 words. BIP85 allows you to have a seed phrase and then generate from that seed phrase up to 10,000, we'll call them child seeds. So you've got one seed phrase, and then account 1 will give you a different 12 words. Account 2 will give you a different 12 words. Account 3, and so on and so forth, all the way up to 10,000 different accounts. And how it works is each child seed is independent from the master, meaning that if one child seed is compromised, you cannot work your way backwards and compromise the master. And so how is this useful? Well, if you have, I use BIP85 on my Coldcard. I use a lot of different wallets on mobile. I'm always testing new stuff. As an educator, and if there's educators in the room, as I'm certain I see lots of them, you're probably constantly booting up new wallets and messing around and trying things, and sometimes putting money on those things and then going, oh, did I leave money in that wallet? Or and so it's just, there's always seed phrases flitting around. You probably have a whole bunch of pieces of paper all over your desk, and you're like, is this seed phrase still relevant? I'll keep it just in case. I've had that for years. But what you can do is have one singular seed phrase, and then every time you're trying out a new wallet or one that you're maybe going to use into the future, regardless of whether you end up using it into the future, you can generate it from the master. And then you no longer even need to back up the seed phrase from the mobile wallet you're trying. Because if you delete it, you just go back to, say, your Coldcard and say, what was account number 1 again? And it'll spit out the 12 words. All you need to do is just keep the master. You keep the device, and then you keep the backup of the device. That's it. This is now all of your wallets forever. So you can just regenerate them. This is also super helpful for family members. My mom, yes. Does she have a cold wallet? Absolutely. Does she have a seed phrase? Yes. Do I trust her to keep both of those things safe? Absolutely not. And so what did I do? I went to my original device. I said, okay, so account number, 17 is going to be mom. And I generated a seed phrase, and then we imported that seed phrase into her device. And we wrote down her seed phrase as well. She kept both those things. She has no idea that I'm her third line of defense. But if one day she comes to me and says, Ben, my device is, I broke it and I don't know where I put my other words, which is probably going to happen, I can say, thank God I've got you. We will go and we will get your seed phrase, and everything's still fine. So it's so useful for close friends and family where you're like, I don't know if they're going to stay on top of this years into the future, where you can be that last line of defense. And so this, for me, is super useful. Does anybody have any questions about any of the stuff? Yes.
Yeah, so with the BIP85, if your device, your Coldcard got wrecked or something, and the master seed phrase was gone, obviously you'd have a backup, and you imported that back into a new Coldcard queue, it regenerates all the child seeds as well? Is that...
You're exactly right. Yeah, so if you... that's the key thing. If you smash your Coldcard, all you need to not only recover the Coldcard, but any derived seed, any child seed that you've used for any other purpose is just the one seed phrase. That is it.
Running the Coldcard, do you run it air gapped all the time, or does the USB-C, does that suffice in security ways?
So anybody unfamiliar with what air gapping is, it just means that either you're plugging it directly into a computer or you're using either QR code or SD card or NFC, some other air gapped, non-plugged in way of interacting with it. I'm doing I'm usually air gapping it. I will say, for people that are brand new that are like, I am already so timid, it's not going to be the absolute end of the world if you're plugging in. It's not like, oh, I plugged it in, all my Bitcoin's gone. It's still, the trade-off is when you plug in a device to a computer, the trade-off is you give a degree of control, of the computer over the device. And what I mean is, if you're air gapping, everything's very intentional. You're on your computer, you say, I want to send this amount of Bitcoin to this address. And then you have like a QR code or something. And then you intentionally pull out your device, you scan it, and then it says, oh, it looks like you're trying to spend money. Do you want to send? Everything's more intentional. When you plug it into the computer, what ends up happening, as soon as you hit I want to send, it triggers the Coldcard or whatever device you're doing to do something, to bring up a screen rather than you manually commanding it. So that's the trade-off there. I like air gapping. Some people may want to plug it in.
Is there anything, when it comes to the BIP85, if someone was to stumble upon or find the original master, is there anything that initially gives it away that there are these kind of child wallets? Like, is there any way to obfuscate that somewhat?
Nothing gives it away. If somebody has the master, then yes, they can regenerate all of the child seeds. If you were really worried about that taking place, you could have your master seed protected by a passphrase and then generate BIP85 from there. In the weeds there. Yeah.
Hi. How do you see the evolution of like the higher level or the outer layers playing out for inherent privacy in there? Like you stacked up those three.
Oh,
do you
yeah.
see that stacking like being a UI or UX?
So you're talking about like layer 2 spending wallets and the privacy inherent to those things? Yeah. Yeah. So I'll answer the question as best I think. Hopefully it's a good answer. How do the spending wallets kind of impact our privacy or benefit it, so on and so forth? I think that our layer 2 wallets, things like our whether you're using like Liquid or Lightning or some combination thereof, I do think that the privacy will continue to improve. And I think that if you're dealing with on-chain funds, right now, if you're sending on-chain to somebody, if you're not taking steps like coin joining, stuff like that, then you can very easily give people a picture of how much Bitcoin you have by accident. When you peel away from an on-chain stack and send it over to one of these layer 2 wallets, you're already giving yourself an additional bit of privacy in doing so. And I think that will continue to improve. I think that realistically, especially Bitcoiners that are stacking Bitcoin right now that are going to use it in like 10 years, there's going to be a worry there like, oh shit, what if people see like my original stack? And I think that the self-sovereign layer 2 wallets that we'll be using will continue to help that. In terms of the evolution of what layer 2 wallets are doing, I think what we're seeing is obviously if you're using a Lightning wallet that's self-sovereign, on-chain fees can fluctuate. Sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense to own a Lightning channel early on. But what I've seen out of a lot of these mobile wallet solutions is they're leaning towards this hybrid model where there's different types of Bitcoin layer 2 solutions baked in. And as your balance grows, it auto kind of triggers a swap to a more self-sovereign option. So like one of the, I think Blitz wallet did something really cool where if you receive 100 sats, it doesn't make sense to have it on a Lightning channel, nor does it even really make sense to get it via Liquid. So what it'll do is it'll use Cashew, so like an eCash mint. And then if it builds to a certain threshold, it'll swap it into Liquid. And then if it builds beyond a certain threshold, it'll swap it into your own self-sovereign Lightning channel. And all of this is done automated in the background without the user having to do a damn thing. And I really like that idea because you don't have to think, but it puts you in a position where if you start building a stack, you're better off. Is there anything else?
One more question. Who had a question back here? This will be our last one. I get the feeling we could stay here, Ben, for the rest of the day. It's a 30-minute session, but Ben's going to be around a long time for questions during the event, right?
I'll be around the next couple days.
Okay. Last question then. Thanks.
This might sound super stupid, but how do you track all this? Like, do you write it down? Do you put it in a spreadsheet? Like, obviously, spreadsheets aren't very smart, right? So what do you do? Because I'm fairly new at this.
So you're talking about like accounting wise and everything?
No, everything. Well, accounting, sure. But I just mean like tracking all the, okay, so I opened up a new wallet and, I'll just
for like the
forget,
BIP 85?
like, what did I do? You know what I mean? So it's like now I'm really getting into the point where I have to start tracking or else I'm going to get lost. Yeah,
you're right. And so actually I had to sit down. So it's not just you tracking, it's like your family too, right? Because it's like, oh crap,
can't
there's
imagine.
Bitcoin here and then so what I do when it comes to BIP 85, I've just got like a little, like a little spreadsheet that doesn't say too much about anything. It just says like account, and it'll say like a number, and then it'll have the name of a wallet. So 1 Phoenix, 2 Aqua. And then if I'm ever like, oh crap, I deleted my Aqua wallet, I just go back and say, what was account 2? And it gives me my 12 words through the Coldcard. So I just have one sheet of that. My wife knows where that is too. And she actually has a clone of the same Coldcard with her own pin on it.
Okay, so you are using spreadsheets, but you're just eliminating certain information.
Yeah. It's
okay.
just like if somebody sees something that says 2 Aqua, I mean, I'll be okay.
Okay, great. That's what I'm doing. So I just thought, okay, I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing.
The one last thing I'll add to it is myself and my wife twice a year will sit down and just do a review of where things are. What do we have? What devices do we have? Where are the backups? Where effectively is all the Bitcoin? So if something happens to me, she knows how to do it, and she's actually practiced it. So, yeah.
All right, let's give it up for Ben, everybody. Like I said, you guys probably have questions. I have questions. Everybody goes to Ben with their questions. If you do want to bug him, please do. That's what he's here for. He is the man with all the answers to all of those different solutions. So thank you very much, Ben.